Yes, indeedy. Welcome back, world, to your place for strange, the Shadow Nation. Demon Hunter.
There is no demon hunter. There is only Zool.
Only Zool. Special thanks to all our homes, all our sponsors, Stitcher Smart Radio, Spreaker, the world's listening. Are you? They want to know? Check them out. Spreaker.com, Planet Paranormal, Geeky Antics Network, Series Geeks, Silly Fun, GeekyAntics.net, and Attentive Home Healthcare. Good friends out there. AttentiveHHC.com, the SWL Project, gift share everybody needs, Nathan!
A little love.
The SWLproject.org, go over there and help somebody out. Like we said before, welcome back.
Yay!
To the Shadow Nation, the world's place for strange.
Yay!
Yeah. I'm just flowing with creativity tonight, Nathan.
Is it overflowing or just flowing?
It was overflowing. I had to hit the head right before moments.
I was going to say, did you stuff too much paper into the bottom of the creativity before you pulled the handle?
Note to self, guys, when you're making a last-minute dash, Nathan and I know a lot about each other. We have to listen to each other go to the restroom moments before the show when we're making a mad dash there. The bathroom's right down the hall from the studio.
Ah, the wonderful world of microphones.
Need to mute the mic. We found that out while we were out filming, man. Remember, they were like, hey, guys, you need to mute your mic when you go on your little cigarette break.
That was one of the best when Jason and I were filming one night, and all of a sudden the director calls up and goes, Sean, mute your microphone.
Yeah.
Sean, stop peeing. Mute your microphone.
Yeah, and I'm sitting over there going, relieving myself. That's crazy, man. Hey, buddy, I wanted to start out, everybody around the world, of course, our 16th president, Mr. Abraham Lincoln's birthday is today.
Is it today?
Happy birthday.
Of all days?
It is February 12th, 1809.
What an epic day.
Yeah.
President Lincoln's birthday and an episode of the Shadow Nation. I mean, this day will go down in history.
It only happens every Sunday. And, of course, the return of The Walking Dead tonight, huh?
Of what?
Yeah, The Walking Dead, which we've had most of the freaking, stars of that show on our show. So we should be like a talk around the dressing room on the set of The Walking Dead.
I can't imagine. Well, the problem is we get them and then they get killed off, so they don't talk about it.
Not true. Jesus was our last on.
Jesus is still around. Aaron's still around.
Yeah, Aaron. Aaron Bell.
Are those the only two that are still around?
I did reach out to Aaron again, though, after he did our show, and they said, well, yeah, Aaron's real busy right now. So once he came on, he's like, I know those guys now. No way. No way.
I am not risking going on that show twice and getting killed off of the show.
No. But hey, Nathan, before we get too far into this epic show tonight, I'm so ready for this. Tonight's guest, everybody. He's an American director and graduate of the University of Kansas in film studies. Yeah, I like Kansas. He is the founder of Scenes Reality Pictures, and he spent the last years directing numerous horror short films that have been screened and released at some of the most prestigious film festivals across the land. Best known for his amazing work such as Arbor Demon, Nailbiter, and The Invoking 2, and many more. Our guest has continuously proven to be a force to reckon with in the horror genre. Tonight, director, you ready? Patrick Rea stops by, Nathan. Yeah, director-producer Patrick Rea in the house. An American director. I hope so. Because I said it, American director. Didn't know it was Canadian or American. Anyway, guys, right here at America's place, actually the world's place for strange, your Shadow Nation. Paul Rea. I got a lot of questions for him, Nathan. Yeah. I just seen Arbor Demon last night.
Oh, did you watch it?
I watched it. I got to watch it.
What did you think?
I thought it was amazing. I really loved it.
You know what? It amazed me. It really did, because it was one of those things where when I first watched it, my wife watches a lot of these indie films for her reviews and things like that. Sure. She said, I have to watch this film. Would you be interested in watching it with me? I was like, all right. It's got the title Demon in it. I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed. I really was. And not to mention, Jake Busey was in it. And I'll watch anything Jake Busey does.
Anything the Buseys touch, you kind of want to watch to find out what will happen, So like
it's the teeth. You can't avoid the teeth. It's.
I think the last thing I seen was like Celebrity Paranormal. I think that was the name of it on Sci-Fi. Remember that when Busey went out there? And
was that Jake though? Was that
no, it was,
Gary's son, Jake?
No, it was Gary.
It was Gary on that one. Yeah.
He was he had been born again at that time, fresh from the church, and
I remember watching him all his lectures he did after the what was it? The Left Behind series. He was in part of the Left Behind series.
That's right. Yeah, but you know, he came out and he was telling everybody about, you know, church and finding God and find inner peace, and everybody was like, "Oh, that's cool. That's Gary's good." And when the heat turned up and they set him loose in the haunted house, he's like, "Don't you tell me, you bitch! I'm gonna do what the hell I want." It was epic.
Well, he was having flashbacks to the
meltdown.
motorcycle accident. You know, it's
Oh, it was great, man. It was great. I loved every minute of it. But you know, last night I was on our friend the Netflix. Huh? The Netflix.
Oh, yes, the Netflix, which I have now. I have it now.
Yeah, you kind of had to since most of our guests come off there.
Netflix.
Yeah. So when we had David Harbour on from Stranger Things, you had to. How'd you get to watch Stranger Things if you didn't have it then?
I went to a friend's house and watched it.
You binged watch at a friend's house? I spent the whole weekend. Wow.
It was like when you were a kid and your friends had cable and there was going to be a special on that you had to watch for TV, and you go to your friend's house. I was like, oh man, this is a Netflix show. I'm gonna have to go to somebody else's house to watch it. And then later I found out I could have just asked him for his password. I could have watched it at home.
So yeah, he'd let you watch it right there on the tablet or something. Yeah, but so you just plopped on his couch and was like, "Dude, I'm gonna be here for a while."
Yeah, I'm gonna be here for the next 6 hours.
6? I don't know. Weren't they?
Well, there were only 8 episodes, and they weren't a whole hour long each, right?
Seriously, I thought they were at least an hour. They felt longer.
I
don't know. But you know, when Dave came back on, Steger came on, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And he told us that Stranger Things was supposed to release sometime this spring, part 2.
Summer. He said summer. It should be back up and running by summer.
It's saying Halloween now.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what? That just goes to show you what you get as being a part of the show. Yeah. Because you and I know, we walked in and we were like told, oh, we're going to start filming in February. Yeah. And then I quit my job so we could film.
Yeah.
And then we were told, oh, it's not going to be till March. And I was like, it's going to be tough, but I'll get through the next month.
That's right.
Then we were told, maybe in April.
Yeah. Because Mark didn't even know about half his own movies, remember? You asked him how that one to end. He was in. He goes, tell you the truth, bro.
I never saw it. Yeah.
I haven't caught that one yet. I was only in it. Anyway, I'm on Netflix last night, and you know we talk about a lot of strange and cool things on this show. No, really, we do. And I was checking out these things, and I found out about something called female masking. You ever heard of this?
You mentioned this to me, and you were shocked that I had no idea what it was. Now, it sounds like something I should know, and when you say it, it'll make perfect sense to me. However, currently, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Brother, first I should say this, guys. We don't discriminate against anyone on this show, especially the freaky deaky ones, because you make our show great, because you give us so much stuff to talk about, and you are what makes the world so better by being so different. But I got to tell you, this was kind of scary to me. And, okay, so anyway, guys, the world of female masking. What do you think it is, Nathan? Give me a guess. Just your best guess. Off the top.
I have no clue, man. Female masking. It sounds like they're putting masks over their private parts. I have no clue.
So your mind went right there, right to the gutter.
Yeah, right to the gutter.
So
I mean,
filthy.
have you watched Facebook lately? Everything's in the gutter.
It's either Ivanka's stuff being pulled from the shelves at a store, or it's female masking. What do you want to say?
You know what, Sean? We don't talk politics on this, but I got to say this thing about that one little aspect of it. If you run for president and you know you're going to make a bunch of people hate you, you should not be surprised when people start boycotting your products and it affects your family.
Yes. Only in America.
That's the way about it. I mean, is it right? Is it wrong? I'm not going to get into that, but you shouldn't be surprised.
Well, it's all about that discrimination thing. Everybody's totally against it, unless it works for them. Right, yeah. Well, anyway, the men behind the mask, Nathan. That's right, I said it. The men behind the mask. You would think female masking, guys, is something that, is about females.
Is that like backward masking, where you play a man backwards and you get a female?
No, like the Ozzy Osbourne satanic messages.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is a thing, and I watched this documentary, and I highly recommend it now that you have Netflix. And it's called Behind the Mask or something like that. Okay, we have sex dolls out there. They do exist.
Do?
We've reported on them several times on our show.
Wait. Sex dolls? What is a sex doll?
You know, some of them are, they got holes in certain places, and they're fun, and some people, they're getting better now, I hear. I watched another
they
documentary.
have those?
They do.
You didn't tell me about this before I got married?
Well, no, they weren't out before you got married.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, so
okay.
I'm watching this thing, and I see somebody that looks like a rubber mannequin. And the documentary follows a 73-year-old man who wears a total, they call it a femme bodysuit. And there's a whole family that makes these out of Florida. And it comes with tatas and an actual female private part that the men shave their face and send the hair from their face or wherever else to be attached to these certain romantic parts. I'm not kidding you. And it's like a wetsuit but made out of latex. And they put that up there and they put it on. They put baby powder all over their body. Now, the bodies look amazingly pretty much realistic. I mean, they wear bikini. These guys are out on the beach, sunbathing, and this is an underground thing still, fairly. I mean, as you can imagine, the guys don't want to go out and walk around in these, but they wear these masks, women mask, and they look just like a mannequin or a rubber sex doll or something. And it's basically just a mask with like a string behind it, and the face looks like a mannequin you would see in a store. And they have pouches inside these suits to put your junk in. And on the outside, you have the woman's private area. And they get all dolled up and dressed up, and they go to hotels, and they have these meetings where they all check out each other's suits and how the boobs look, and they rate each other. And this is a real thing. And a lot of them kind of say it's a transgender thing. The guys were confused but didn't want to go through an operation. Some people just said they wanted to become a beautiful thing. This guy was like 72, 74. And he's saying, oh, my God, look at this. He's looking in the mirror going, see, I can transform into the... To me, it was so weird, man. It looked like... have you ever seen somebody, perhaps, that had been through a traumatic fire or something like that? And you see these pictures of a face transplant.
You see the scar tissue, the glowing, like, shiny scar tissue.
Yes, almost, well, mannequin-esque. That's how this was. And I got to tell you, nothing against the maskers out there.
Freaked you out a bit, though, did it?
Dude, it looked like walking mannequins. And they go out. The lips don't move or anything like that, but they go out. No. And there was dudes hitting on them at the bars and stuff. And then when they got really close, they were like, oh, my God. So it would be talking to you like this. Hey, Nathan, how are you doing? Because they got to talk through a mask. Yeah. But the body, I mean, these guys, some of these guys were going out to the beach. You know it's going to be hot. They're wearing a rubber suit. They can't go number 2 in it. They can go pee. Some of them come attached with a catheter so they can go to the restroom like a lady. Come on, man. I was so thankful to God to find out that there's other nations on this globe. I told Stacy this the way. There's other nations that do this because I thought, you know, my God, man, how far are we going to go in this country? And
I like you said, we don't mock anybody on this.
Of course not.
But you just got to look at the change of this. We're one step behind Ghost in a Shell here, where they're going to be like, oh, you want a new body? Okay, let's take your brain out of that body, and we'll put you in a brand new female mechanical body. Yes. And there you go, and you'll never die. And, oh, jeez.
No, I just thought, oh, dude, listen. If you don't want to talk about this, you're crazy, okay? Grown men are wearing a rubber sex doll costume, basically, and walking around. And if that's what does it for them, that's fine. But wow, I mean, you know, it's just crazy, man. It's really weird. Anyway, Carrie, a green-eyed, crimson-lipped beauty with suspiciously smooth skin and a full bust, looks like a woman with something to hide. As he is Carrie is actually a 52-year-old heterosexual man wearing a latex mask and a full bodysuit to emulate a woman. Carrie is part of a subculture known as female masking that until very recently has remained relatively unheard of, even among dedicated cross-dressers. Male enthusiasts don elaborate latex or silicone masks and bodysuits complete with breasts to become glamorous female alter egos. Yeah. Married man Carrie from Seattle has been fascinated by Mask ever since he saw an episode of Mission Impossible in 1970 depicting actresses wearing masks to impersonate other characters. Mm-hmm. At 15, he tells The Atlantic he began wearing female
but
masks.
he didn't get a mask of him as, Tom Cruise. He got a mask of him as a woman. So
yeah. And it's not like a real, it doesn't look like real women. It looks like a mannequin. You got to look this up, man. Anyway, he began wearing it at 15, at first from the local costume shops and later self-made latex creation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, whatever floats your boat, guys. But I just thought I'd point that out because there's got to be a horror film in this. Because I'm sorry, guys, that do this. If you're maskers of the Shadow Nation, we love you. Absolutely love you. But with our culture, people who wear masks, especially like this, are very creepy in the horror genre because they usually kill you. So,
Well, usually then it's made of, human flesh.
That's what it kind of looks like.
That's the next step.
That's what it kind of looked like.
It puts the lotion on its skin. So speaking of horror movies and like near-death experiences, Sean, how was last week after we got done doing a show and you had to go back to your wife and say, okay, honey, now we can celebrate your birthday?
Oh, yeah. After we spoke to the smoking hot Olwen and Catherine Kelly from Autopsy of Jane Doe. Stacy talked to me. It only took about 3 hours afterwards. But I did play her after the show, guys. Olwen said, you guys can have your husbands back now. Happy birthday. I'm not so sure that was a good thing,
And then this week was my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom.
Beautiful.
Last week was your mom's birthday.
Beautiful.
Happy birthday, Sean's mom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, wild week. We've had a lot going on.
Yeah, it's been crazy, man. It's been crazy. And we do have, guys, Nathan and I put out an advertisement for one of our guests coming up. And, of course, it's the amazing Bonnie Morgan. She's the girl from Ring, the creepy little girl that comes out. And she's not really a little girl, but she's a contortionist. She will be coming on, I believe, next Sunday, guys. So stay tuned for that. And we got a great one up for you tonight. So, but, yeah, that's going to be good. Hey, I was reading up on this, Nate. And you know how big of a Halloween fan we are.
Halloween. That's a holiday, right?
Yeah, the holiday and the movie. Michael Myers.
Oh, and the movie. We're talking movie now. Okay.
And everybody was bashing that. There's a new Halloween film coming out this October.
No, I did not know that.
There is, and everybody's going, oh my God, it's going to follow the last couple terrible ones that Zombie didn't do. The ones that they did, how it went on. Like Michael Myers goes on a date. Michael Myers goes to the playground. I mean, they got pretty bad there for a while. Yeah.
Hey, Jason went to space, so hey.
That was a real winner. They started making Friday the 13th, and they pulled it. Did you see that? They had a release date. Yeah, they started remaking it. Anyway, Halloween will not be, Nathan, a remake, says John Carpenter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what he says. He says...
so this is going to be Carpenter's coming in and doing this one,
Yeah, and they say it is. It's going to be Johnny in there. It says now we're even more excited. It was announced last night that David Gordon Green, Pineapple Express, and Joe will be directing next year's new installment in the Halloween franchise, being panned by Gordon Green and actor Danny McBride. John Carpenter is on board to executive produce, and as Carpenter himself noted, it was Gordon Green and McBride's pitch that really sold him on their vision. So what was the pitch, you asked, speaking with Cinema Blend? Basically, I don't want to go into the whole pitch because it goes on forever, but they're going to pick up after the second epic one from our childhood that we remember.
Okay.
Yeah, the night he came home or whatever, the first one, and then the second one, he goes to the hospital and does the slashing, and then he burns up. Well, nobody picked up from after there. They did that Halloween 3. It was terrible, remember? It's like Season of the Mask.
Oh, God, yes.
It had nothing to do with it.
I kind of thought that's where you were going with female masking. It was going to be like, they put the mask on, they watched the show, all of a sudden they're evil monsters.
No, this is going to be it, man. October 19th, 2017, it's going to be coming out, and they're saying it picks up where number 2 left off. So, way to go, guys. Please don't mess it up. I love that so much. I love it, Nathan. I cannot wait. Cannot wait. But you know what time it is?
What time is it, Sean?
G&D Show in the news.
In the news?
Yeah. You guys hear the music? It's that time again where it's always fresh, it's always strange, it's weird, exciting, and it's straight from the G&D Show Shadow Nation vaults. And it starts right now. That's it.
That's right, folks. It's time for weird news that Sean and I pick right out of the papers because we like the titles. Of course, we haven't read the the stories yet. That means we make a lot of mistakes. Every time we make a mistake, you take a drink. That's why it's going to be called the Shadow Nation drinking game. Okay, we can still call it the G&D drinking game. Every time we make a mistake, you take a drink. Of course, unless you're listening to the G&D show while you're driving, in which case, then we really don't want you to play the G&D drinking game because we will not pay your fines. Anyway, if you're doing anything important this evening, like watching the next episode of The Walking Dead, please listen responsibly.
Oh, it's going to be a big one today. Oh, Nathan, first, can I take the first story, you think?
Sure, you can take the first
I picked this one just for you. The mystery behind the recon flight that spotted a Norwegian mountain troll. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know me and trolls.
You love them. In December of 1942.
I love them.
Yeah, I know. Right. December 1942, the crew of the RAF Recon Flight 300 is said to have taken a picture of a being of unimaginable proportions. Some even called out the image as being one of the best pieces of evidence that giants exist or existed in the past. However, the truth behind the image is very different from the story many were told. Legends of the giants exist all over the world among the cultures and civilizations. The fact that these legends exist certainly has to do with the fact that giants existed in the past, and who knows that they still exist today in remote regions, such as the story told by Steve Quayle about the red-headed giant of Afghanistan. We talked about that last week, Nate.
Yes, we did.
It's saying, however, scientists and historians say this might be a possibility. Now, after numerous tracks and hair has been found in these regions where the 1942 first images were taken, several scientists agree that this is a very real possibility to this day that Norwegian trolls exist.
Well, you know me, Sean. I was raised by a very Nordic family, and trolls are the only thing I'm afraid of to this day because they exist, I tell you. I was told as a child they were down in our basement, and if I was bad, they were going to get me. So therefore, they must exist.
They have to.
They have to.
If you fear them,
my family wouldn't have lied to me.
If you fear them, they will come.
Hey, Sean, here's an interesting one for you.
Oh, yeah.
Pot Sasquatch interrupts Massachusetts snowstorm news coverage.
What do you mean?
Why, on February 10th, this comes to us from the UPI News, a news broadcast in Massachusetts was interrupted by a strange creature made up entirely of marijuana on Thursday.
That's
a man, well, they assume, I'm sure it was a man, dressed as a hot Sasquatch, sprinted through the background as WWLP 22 News was have a drink, folks. Meteorologist Jennifer Pegley reporting on a snowstorm in Springfield. Is that where the Simpsons are from, Sean?
Springfield.
Pegley did not immediately notice the man Sasquatch, but laughed upon witnessing the costume covered in marijuana leaves. Undeterred, have a drink, folks, by the impending snowstorm, the pot Sasquatch continued to skulk around the area, hiding behind objects and concealing himself masterfully.
Apparently not, if she knew it was a male.
Well, I guess, and causing mischief, too. So, apparently, there is enough pot to... I don't want to hear people say that, the law is too tough on the marijuana industry, because apparently there's enough marijuana just floating around out there for some guy to just make an outfit and run around in the news on it.
I'm saying they're having some fun out there. Where was this at?
This was in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Oh my God, that's not your way.
Just about 2 hours north of me. Yeah.
2 hours north of you. Yeah. I don't know.
On the 10th, I was snowed in though, so I couldn't go hunting for the pot Sasquatch that day.
It'd be fun if he's out there though. It's fun. The pun said that's been the problem the whole long. That's why we haven't seen Bigfoot. It's actually the pot squatch.
Yes.
And now that it's legal, he's coming forward. Yeah, that's what I think anyway.
Dun dun dun.
Uh-oh. What's that sound, Nathan?
That sounds like Rot Talk music.
Rot Talk, guys. That's right. With the return of The Walking Dead, the show we know we love, we talk about each week during the season. what we think happened last week, what we think is going to happen this week and tonight on The Walking Dead. Nathan?
Sean?
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, before we go into this, and this is a little tie-in here from the news into this, did you know that Illinois lawmakers are encouraging the state to be undead ready by passing a resolution declaring October to be zombie prepared?
Now, this is good. I got to hear this. I got to hear it.
The state house voted on Thursday, this was February 10th, to approve a House Resolution 0030, which calls for October to be declared Zombie Preparedness Month as a bid to encourage the state residents to prepare for more realistic natural disasters.
Oh, my God. That is cool. I love how they're getting on board with this whole zombie thing.
Well, it kind of tells me that they know the zombie apocalypse is coming, and that, as they tell people, well, no, we're just telling you to be ready for, like, an earthquake. Or we're just telling you to be ready for a drought or a tornado.
Or zombie attack.
We're just telling you to be ready for a zombie apocalypse.
Well, Illinois has a lot of UFO sightings, things like that, so I would think they're the first outbreak if it's going to happen.
Actually, did you see the thing I posted to your page about the states that were most prepared for, like, zombie apocalypse? I posted that to your page and mine, and now I don't see it on my own page. So that might have gotten taken down. I wonder why that got taken down.
I don't know. You probably said something dirty.
I must have.
I don't know, but that's awesome.
It's gone.
But
I believe my state was actually doing better than your state.
Oh, yeah.
But I think Texas was number 2.
Yeah. We're dead.
Texas is the second best prepared, and like Minnesota or something like that was like number 1.
Really?
Wisconsin.
Minnetonka, huh?
Yeah. But
anyway.
You know what, Sean? Yeah, you're right. It's 7:30, and we're running out of time, so we better talk Raw Talk.
Raw Talk. So, guys, we're coming back tonight, coming in hot for the second half of Season 7 of The Walking Dead. And I got to tell you, Nate, I am stoked. I'm more stoked than when right before Negan did the smashing in the start of Episode 7. And I'm even more stoked because, after this last hurrah, we got to wait till October again.
Yeah,
to see what's going to happen. That's
6 episodes, and then we're back to waiting. Stop for one moment, Sean. Stop. Think. What's the last thing you remember happening at the end of the mid-season?
Well, I remember the people coming back together. Rick kind of snapped out of his funk and said, I'm ready to kick some booty.
See, to me, the big thing was the gutting.
Oh, yeah.
The gutting was the big shocker to me because... that was the anti. He was not really a protagonist. He was. What was his name?
That guy was an arse.
We just called him. Diana's son.
Yeah.
Who's Diana?
Dirty Diana. Dirty Diana. Michael.
He had a stomach problem, and Negan took care of it.
He took care of it. Cut that right out. What's going to happen tonight? You think, man?
That stuff down.
I did hit it. Do it again.
I will knock that stuff down.
That's it. I will shut that down.
I will shut that stuff down.
Stuff. You're a proper Negan.
Welcome to radio.
I said arse. I said arse earlier.
But what do you think's coming up now, Sean? Because obviously, like I said at the end of last season, we were looking at a gathering. Yeah. And, of course, if we've seen the commercials now. We know that's going to happen. Do you think the Amazon ladies are going to be brought into this?
They're going to have to at some point, Nathan, and they're going to come in hot because those 2 chicks are really looking to come after that one. Remember the one that was, I forget her name now, but they don't know what to expect. They're very paranoid.
But how are they going to go and communicate with them and say, hey, by the way, we need your weapons?
Right. Well, I think it's going to be by chance. I think they're going to run into him, and they're going to run into Negan at the same time, and Negan might take one of theirs out, and then the anger is going to come together.
Yeah.
Then we'll have our good friend.
As I've said, I do not think Negan will die.
Oh, you don't?
No, I do not, because traditionally, now mind you, I'm running on empty at this point because, as I told you, the introduction of Negan was right about the time I stopped reading the comic books.
Right.
So right now I am on the same playing field as you are.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've heard about the comic books is that at some point Negan gets captured.
Right.
And I got a feeling that the prison that Morgan built just before he left is going to be Negan's prison. I think we're going to wind up watching Negan get locked up.
Okay, well, I'm down with that because something's going to happen. I mean, we've seen...
But I the thing is, if there's a war, folks, you got to remember, there's going to be a war, and we're talking 4 groups going against the Saviors. We're probably going to see another favored character die.
Yeah,
you got to be ready for that, and it's going to happen right at the end of this season, and right before we go to a 6-month break before we come back in October. So be ready for that. Somebody's going to go.
All right,
somebody you know, somebody you love.
Someone you love.
Let's not forget, we've heard all the rumors that Carl doesn't want to go on much longer.
This is true. Well, they just need to replace Carl. He needs to go away.
You know what they need? They need to find a doctor who is also a plastic surgeon.
Yes. Yes.
and Carl gets in a horrible accident, and he comes out looking like a 25-year-old.
These are the days of our life. Yeah, that's great.
But it's gonna be an interesting time. But Sean, guess what? We got an interesting show coming up.
Yeah, we do. Real quick, guys, what I think is going to happen tonight? The group comes together, and we're going to start seeing some reverse butt kicking. Instead of Negan doing it, I think Rick's back in the saddle, and they're going to give him a run for it. So I can't wait for that. Anyway, guys, tonight's guest, again, if you missed it. What, Nathan?
Do you think Rick's going to kind of turn the reins over to Maggie?
You know, he might do it because she's got a lot of anger and she's ready to go with it, man.
Yeah, she's got the anger of her husband behind her there. So
yeah, she does. Anyway, guys, tonight's guest is an American director and graduate of the University of Kansas in film study. He's the founder of See No Reality Pictures, and he spent the last years directing numerous horror short films that have been screened and released in some of the most prestigious film festivals across the land. Tonight, director Patrick Rea, known for his work on Arbor Demon, Nailbiter, and much, much more, is right here at America's Place for Strange, your Shadow Nation. I can't wait for this one, Nathan. Cannot wait for it. Such a good guest, and we don't get directors in here that much.
We don't. Usually they go, no way.
Anyway, Nate, what do you say we go to break, Bubba?
I like that idea.
Anyway, guys, each week on this show we play an independent band. One we know, we love, we support the little man, right, Nate?
We do.
Name of Taban. Nice.
It's Taban.
Yeah. Name of show tunes. You love show tunes. Anyway, guys, tonight's band's name is Melody Sheep. Name of the song Monsters of the Cosmos. Nathan?
John.
Shadow Nation. We'll be right back.
I will travel where no man has dared to go. Into the black hole. Why, that's crazy.
If you fall in, you never come out, stretching you from head to toe. Death by black hole.
There are monsters out in the cosmos that can swallow entire stars. Inside these equations, there's a monster. Anything that strays too close will be pulled in. Gravity is infinite at the center of a black hole. Time stops. Space makes no sense.
Every galaxy has got one big black hole in the middle, and millions of smaller black holes.
An anomaly of gravity so strange. Nothing is more seductive.
There are monsters out in the cosmos that can swallow entire stars, that can destroy space itself. Completely invisible. Anything that strays too close will be pulled in.
In the last century, black holes have gone from being mathematical curiosities to real objects in the cosmos, seemingly crucial to the formation of galaxies. Nothing can escape it, even light.
There must be millions and millions of black holes. Zipping around our galaxy, nothing there to light them up. Millions and millions of black holes. Zipping around our galaxy, nothing there to light them up.
At the heart of a large black hole is a singularity. It's a point of infinite density. The accepted laws of physics break down.
Black holes form when giant stars run out of fuel and collapse under their own weight. Gun remnants, burned out stars. Truth is stranger
strange. Nothing is more seductive.
There are monsters out in the cosmos that can swallow entire stars, that can destroy space itself, completely invisible. Anything that strays too close will be pulled in.
Millions and millions of black holes zipping around our galaxy. Nothing there to light them up. Millions and millions of black holes zipping around our galaxy. Nothing there to light them up.
Nothing is bigger and scarier than a black hole.
A boundary between the known universe and a place beyond the reach of science.
Hey, Shadow Nation, this is Tyler Maine, Michael Myers from Rob Zombie's Halloween. You're listening to The Ghost Man and the Demon Hunter.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Shadow Nation. Tonight's guest is an American director and graduate of the University of Kansas in film studies. He is the founder of See No Reality Pictures, and he spent years directing numerous horror short films that have been screened and released at some of the most prestigious film festivals across the United States. Best known for his amazing work on such films as Arbor Demon, Nailbiter, and The Invoking 2, and of course, much, much more. Our guest has continuously proven to be a force to reckon with in the genre of horror. Help us welcome to studio Director Patrick Rea. What's up, Pat?
Hi, that was a very enthusiastic intro. I appreciate it.
That's what you get. Thanks for coming on.
I gotta say, Patrick, I heard you laugh going on. A lot of times we pull a lot of the information right off of IMDb because we assume that's what you've written about yourself. What made you laugh when we read your introduction?
No, it's funny because it's just the University of Kansas was where I went to film school, so it's just I don't know. It's unique.
Well, I like to give the background. See, so I take IMDb and then I do some other writings about you. I try to find and I mix and match and try to because I don't just want to read off IMDb, but I want to give you a top shelf intro. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that. I just you reminded me that I have to update my IMDb biography. I don't think it's been touched in like 13 years.
Can you tell us how to do that? Because both Sean and I have IMDb pages for the work we've done on TV, and neither one of us knows how to go on and put a biography.
It used to be such a hassle that that's why I just didn't do it. And now I think they've made IMDb a lot more user friendly. It's just you have to have like an IMDb Pro account, and then you can kind of go in and alter. And, a lot of people are always like, well, how do I get my credit added to this? And they've made it a lot easier. So, but yeah, at some point, I just need to update my bio.
Well, I didn't go back to first grade, your elementary school. So,
Exactly.
But hey, man, University of Kansas, that's nothing to rub your nose at. I mean,
it was a great place to go to film school. I grew up in Nebraska, and this was, I went to high school in the 90s and went to community college in Nebraska, and then I ended up transferring to Lawrence, Kansas for film school. And at the time, it was like there wasn't really anything else to offer in the Midwest, so it was really a great place to. And this was around the time where I was still shooting on film at KU when I was in film school, and it was just on the cusp of when things were starting to go to digital.
Yeah.
I graduated in 2003, so it was still pretty early on in the digital revolution, I guess. And but it was really kind of a cool time to be in film school because, people were still shooting film, but then they were starting to learn how to shoot, on digital video and all that. So and it's kind of around the time I think a lot of Hollywood movies started to at least tinker with the idea of shooting on digital. But now it's like 90% of the movies are shot digitally.
Yeah.
So
it's so much easier.
Well, I would say it's easier and it's also harder because you can definitely shoot a lot more, but then it comes down to then you have a lot more to work with in the edit, but it's also a lot more footage to go through.
Yeah.
And you also have to, work harder to make it look good. Like film was very forgiving, and now with digital, of course, now it's getting to the point now where cameras look really great no matter what. But yeah, you still need to light it properly, and so.
It's really funny when you laughed when we brought that up and everything about the school. And I remember Sean and I had done some TV work. So, you come back to your hometown, and of course the college, all the kids want, they all ask you, you've done television.
Right.
Would you come in and talk to our film students?
Right.
And I was like, sure, I'll come in and talk to them. And I sat down, and I think I made the professor really upset, because one of the first thing I said is, okay, guys, you're in your last year of film school. You're doing everything you've ever wanted to do. And now you're going to go out in the real world and be basically running and getting coffee for people.
Exactly.
And you're going to start at the bottom of the rung. And I guarantee 95% of you are going to go work for projects under people who never went to film school. And if you rub your degree in their face, you are never going to work in this business. And the professor just was like, "Well, thank you very much, Mr. Studo.
Thank you for coming." It's funny you say that. I come back. I live in Kansas City, Missouri, so I'm not that far from Lawrence, and so I'll occasionally come and speak. And I'm always kind of like, okay, how many of you guys want to have a nice car, really nice stereo, nice TV, nice place to blah 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 blah, and make a lot of money right off the bat? And they're like, they raise their hand. I'm like, okay, you're in the wrong business. You gotta be willing to, I my first few years out of film school, I slept on a couch and just ate ramen noodles, and those are the kind of things you have to do, because you're not gonna walk into a directing job right away. You got to work your way up, and you got to just keep honing your skills. And so, I kind of have to give people a little bit of a reality check, because I think that some people think it's going to just be, handed to them, and it's not. It's very difficult and takes years. So it's just, I come and speak maybe once or twice a year at KU, and then I speak to some students here in Kansas City as well, and I always tell them the same thing, that they just have to be willing to get their hands dirty and be accepting of the fact that you're going to be poor for a while.
Ramen noodles, baby.
Ramen noodles, exactly. So, I think people, like those who are willing to do that are the ones who are going to, and stick with it.
Right. Yeah.
You got to stick with it. And I think that those are the students that usually go out and succeed. I think when I was in film school, it was, I graduated in 2003, and they were telling us that, average of 12% of you will go out and actually get full-time jobs in the film industry or something like that. It's probably higher now, but so you just have to really stick with it, and you gotta really love it. Like that's the thing.
It's tough.
If you don't really love it, you're gonna have trouble.
It's tough too, because Sean and I have had guests on who were talking about how, like, I used to work as an actor for years, and we'd be talking about the fact that you get that gig, and you work for 6 months, or you work for 3 months, you work for 2 weeks, and you bring home the paycheck, and now you got to worry about how you're going to get by for the next 2 months until the next gig comes along.
Exactly.
And so you're taking every job that comes along. Mike Rooker came on and was talking about how, here's the guy who plays, on Guardians of the Galaxy, was on Walking Dead. It's like, I was cleaning other actors' trailers to get by. It's
Scott Wilson.
Like that's the thing, is that if you can find, like right now I'm working on I'm writing for a CBS kids show, which is it's been consistent, but at some point that we're writing for season 3. At some point the season is going to be they're going to have all their scripts, so it's like then I have to start thinking about what's the next thing, and so that's the kind of thing you always have to be looking for your next project,
next gig,
and as soon as we're Arbor Demon took like 2 years to complete, and once you're done with that film, you immediately, even while you're working on that film, you have to start thinking about your next move, and how you're going to get the financing and all that.
Stressful.
So it's a challenge, and I think I've been doing it now since I really went full-time freelance in 2010. So they always say it takes about 5 or 6 years to really hit your stride, and I think that hopefully, knock on wood, things have been better. So,
well, like I said,
persistence.
you're becoming a force to be reckoned with, man. I mean, Arbor Demon, it was amazing. I watched it for the first time last night doing my research on you, and I got to say, top shelf. I loved everything.
Thank you. I
loved it. I loved the edit on it, how you guys ran it. I mean, it was amazing storyline. I really liked it, and of course, it was horror, so that's a shoe-in for me. But you know, Patrick, what you do is amazing. I did not go to film school. I have directed some small things, the little shorts I did about ghosts and hauntings. I love just to get in there and play around, man. I love doing it. I edit our show up at night, and I love doing the edit. But, you know, what got you involved? Because a lot of people grow up, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to be on the silver screen. What got you involved from the director side? When you were a kid, you said, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to direct.
You know, it was weird. I grew up in a small town in Nebraska, and there wasn't a lot to do, but we went to the movies a lot. And I just kind of fantasized about making movies a lot as a kid, and you know, it's one of those things where there was always oh, sure you are. But the bug hit me in high school because we were lucky enough, and our high school had its own channel that broadcasted to everybody in town that had cable. So all of a sudden, like, I didn't want to leave my high school. Like, I was like, all right, the janitor had to kick me out because I was, you know, making videos, and like I was using like a green screen, and I was doing little fun effects and
Love
stuff.
It.
Going around all the local businesses in my hometown, and you know, filming videos there, and then I would get to air them immediately. Like, I would edit them at the high school, and then I would plug them into the VCR, and they would broadcast to everybody in town.
So they had a whole channel.
Crazy, but
they had a whole channel, Patrick? Oh, nice.
So, like, that was, like, the first time I ever felt like I was like, oh, this is cool. So, that kind of became my obsession at that point. I was, like, 17 years old and shooting on Super VHS and editing between two VCRs and a little
Super
cheesy
8
switcher thing between the two of them. And, so then that carried over into college. And you know, once I got into film school at KU, everything was, you know, edited on computer and digital, and I think Adobe Premiere was my first editing system that I used, and ironically, it's back to what I'm using now. I think I started off on Premiere, and then I went to Final Cut, then I went to Avid, and then I went right back to Premiere.
I love Pinnacle Studio, brother. Pinnacle Studio, because it's basically cut and drag.
I think. Well, they've made it to the point now where it really is. It's very user friendly. Like, I had to get away from Avid because it was so, like, cumbersome and confusing, and so I ended up going back to Premiere, and that's what I've been using now, you know, to edit. And so it started in high school, basically. Yeah. and those movies, I was hand puppet stuff. Like, it was so crude, but I was having a good time. And, you know, I had like this garden gnome. Like, it was before, what company has the garden gnome commercials? Is it Travelocity?
Travelocity,
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was making these weird garden gnome movies where they were attacking people in my hometown. So then I would just go to different businesses. I'm like, all right, hey, I'm at the bowling alley, and I would come in with the garden gnome. The guy who runs the bowling alley would be like, okay, I know what you're doing. Go ahead. Oh. So then he'd give me a whole lane to the bowling alley, and I could just mess around and have like the garden gnome attacking bowlers or whatever. It was just crazy.
Can you imagine if they would have had YouTube when we were kids? You would have been reigning supreme, man.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a fun, you know, and then I got to broadcast them. So it was kind of like that first taste of getting an audience of some capacity. And people were like, well, you know, at the time, like, it was all just shot on video, but then once I got to film school, I was like, all right, I gotta actually start getting a little bit more sophisticated with my stories. Yeah. So I started working, you know, shooting on film, and which was extremely expensive. And I think the last time I ever shot on film personally was in 2006, and I've been shooting digital ever since. So, and I think my last feature before Arbor Demon was a movie called Nailbiter, which has been airing on Chiller.
Very good.
I think it's back on Chiller February 28th. And that was a film that we shot entirely in Lawrence, Kansas, of all places.
Nice.
And parts of it were in Leawood, Kansas. And then that movie got distributed through Lionsgate in 2013. It was in the Red Box, and so after that movie, I wanted to do something completely different, which is why I started focusing on the movie you just saw, which was at the time was called Enclosure, and actually
I wanted to ask you about that because one of the things I noticed watching the movie was none of the characters ever refer to an arbor demon. And then all of a sudden, it's and then when I researched the picture, I see the original poster that says "Don't Breathe," and it has Enclosure. And people who haven't watched, we're a spoiler-free show, so we're not going to give it away. Except for I might say, I am woman, hear me roar. But
spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Well,
that made me wonder what changed the title. Because I know Sean and I had done a TV show that we originally pitched as calling it Playing with Fire. And they said, no one's going to know what the heck it's about. So they changed the title to Extreme Paranormal. So I was watching this going, that's got to be something that was going on here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, okay, so the movie had its premiere in August at Fright Fest in London, which was the world premiere for the film.
You went to the premiere?
Yes.
Yeah. See, we don't get to do that. We hate you for that because we don't get to do that kind of stuff anymore.
I had to basically, man. I went by my. It was like really. It was it broke the bank for a while. Let me tell you. And then it started playing. It played at the St. Louis International Film Festival after that, and then it went to New York City Horror Film Festival. And now it's playing. I think it's going to be playing at Fantasporto in Portugal in March. Now, right now, the way it's working out is that overseas it's still staying as Enclosure, as far as I know. I think it might end up changing eventually. But the distributor, Gravitas Ventures, came in and picked up the film and then decided to change the title. Mainly because, right now there's so much horror out there. There's so many films, and it was all about just trying to be seen. You know what I'm saying? Like they felt like Enclosure's title was a little too vague, maybe, or not quite as catchy. And so they wanted something in the A's, because right now with video on demand being the wave of the future, and that's what everybody's pretty much watching the movie on, everything's alphabetized. Mm-hmm. So the movie shows up.
So it wasn't going to be called Tree Monster. It was going to be called Arbor Demon.
No. Right. So no, that would have pushed it way further down the alphabet. So, well, because E isn't that far from the top of the alphabet, but they wanted something in the A or the B range, and so that was what they picked. And so but then when it came out last week, I was amazed at how easy it was to find. So I commend them for that change, because it's literally like, if you go to AT&T Uverse or DirecTV, you go look up in the A's, and it's like right there, smacking under American Honey, and it's between American Honey and the Autopsy of Jane Doe. So there you go. And so that was the reason. And quite honestly, I feel like the movie speaks for itself, and I'm just like, once people see it,
Yeah.
The title for me.
You wrote it as well.
I co-wrote it. Yes, I wrote it with Michelle Davidson, who is my co-writer.
I knew a woman had to be in there somewhere.
Yes. She definitely,
Because to be honest with you, the guys really have their moments, but 90% of the time they're jerks.
Right. It's a very. I keep telling people, it's so funny, because before it came out, I was like, it's a feminist horror movie in many ways. And so, and they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, no, you'll see what I mean when you see it, without giving too much away. And I felt like, for me, I wanted to make
Jake
a movie.
Busey was fabulous in it.
Yeah, I'm really happy with his performance. And these guys, look, this is not an easy film to make. We shot the whole thing in 12 days. People usually, it was funny because I was doing a Q&A at a screening a couple weeks ago in Kansas City, and I said, yeah, the movie was shot in 12 days, and it was this audible sound coming from the audience, like,
oh no,
okay. How could you do that? That was because with all that makeup and just getting the performances where we need to get them. these actors really came and brought it. They had a lot of pressure on them just because they had to, At some point, Jake had like 10 pages of dialogue he had to get through in one day. It was not easy.
Walk us through that, Patrick. I mean, how is that? As the head director, you're on this set, you're at these sites, and you know what you got to do. You know what the workload is for the day. How do you direct and worry about, okay, he needs to be in makeup, this girl needs to be in this? How do you do it? How do you coordinate everything?
I mean, I had to. A lot of it came with the prep because we prepped the movie extensively months in advance. Like, I had no idea that we were. It was iffy on whether or not we were going to shoot the movie in November. I had a suspicion that we were, but I had storyboarded the movie throughout the summer into the early fall, which I hand draw every shot, kind of where I want the camera. Now, I always tell people, look, I storyboard the movie, but I'm never married to it. I'm always willing to say, okay, the DP's like, this doesn't work, or we get to set and we're like, we're repeating ourselves in these setups in the tent. Let's try to make something more interesting.
Right.
Then I'm more than willing to do that. But what the storyboards do is they say, okay, look, there's his makeup for this day. If we're shooting these shots this day, he has a cut on his face here, he has a bandaged leg here, and that way we can figure out exactly where the makeup is going to be every day. Like, oh, we have these creature shots these days. So it's but what happened was I was prepping this movie as like a 17-day shoot. And then when it came to actually shooting, we had to do 12. So there was a lot of like, okay, I had to restructure some things. Originally, the script, the way it was written, was supposed to be more nighttime than daytime, and so then we flip-flopped it. And I think actually it helps the movie because a lot of people are actually like, wow, that was gutsy making most of the movie set during the day because most horror movies are set at night, and so a lot of that was because shooting at night is very expensive.
Yes, we know that.
We have to shoot overnight. We have to shoot overnight, and the actors are tired, and the crew gets tired, and then So it was a decision that since we were doing such a tight schedule, was to shoot as much of it during the day as possible. Now, the big thing was we were shooting in December in Charleston, South Carolina, which.
I was about to ask you where you were filming because I did notice all that nice Spanish moss.
Right, the Spanish moss. I mean, originally we were planning on shooting in Missouri in the Ozarks, and then we got the chance to shoot in Charleston. So we kind of rethought the script and the setting and all that, and basically recreated the creature mythology a little bit so it fit the environment that we were going to be filming in. But we were shooting in mid-December, so the sun goes down at about 4:30 in the afternoon, and so I'm having to shoot, all the exteriors during the day, including the final scene of the movie with all of the creatures and the four-wheeler stuff, everything, her running to the four-wheeler, all that final moment with Jake, and without giving anything away. All one day. We had to do it all in one day.
Well, all I'm hearing is that one line that Sean and I heard over and over again when we were filming. We're losing the light.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, literally, I had one producer telling me, like, okay, you have 3 hours of usable light. You have 2 hours of usable light. And I'm like, I still have 45 shots I need to get. So it became very important to me that I did storyboards, because then I could sit there and look at them and say, okay, I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need this to tell the story.
Yeah.
I do need this shot, I do need this shot, otherwise the movie will flat out not make sense.
Right.
So it became a little bit like, okay, let's weed out the shots that I absolutely need, and then the rest of them can just, are going to have to we're just not going to have time.
Yeah.
So, and that, and you figure you take a couple of days with the actors and you go through the script and you really it's kind of like the last rewrite in many ways before the edit is technically the last rewrite, but you go through with the script with the actors and they're like, okay, this line would sound better if I did this, and what do you mean by this line? Is there something that is there a special reason you want it said this way? You don't want to be doing that on set, especially if you have a 12-day shoot. So Michelle and I went to the hotel and worked with the actors and tried to get all of that worked out way in advance, because otherwise it was going to be insane.
Organized
now
chaos.
what was
already
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
What was it like sitting down with the actors, like somebody like Jake Busey, and going, okay, in this scene, people are going to be suspicious. In this scene,
Right.
people are going to really like you. And from this scene on, you're a bit of an asshat. It's,
but he had a pretty.
Can I say that, Sean?
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
he pretty much had a good. He had a good. He understood.
He had
the
a
character.
wide variety of character in there.
Yeah, no, and there are scenes that are like, okay, this is supposed to be just a little bit of levity in this movie. That's not like. It's funny because most of my short films are horror comedy. Most of them are, and this movie virtually has no comedy. It has a little bit of humor with Jake, but but yeah, I felt like we needed some levity in there. Obviously, it was written that way. The way he says it is pretty much the way we wanted it. So a lot of that was worked out.
Patrick, when you film a lot of this run and gun, you said 12 days, I think, to film this whole thing.
Yeah.
When you're doing it, like Sylvester Stallone said when he was filming Rocky, they had to literally get out of his own van, film the running scene, get back in the van because they had no permits, and run on down the road to get the next shot.
Right.
Have you ever had to do something like that?
Well, I mean,
Without the gnomes?
Yeah.
Not with this particular movie. With Nailbiter, yes. Like with Nailbiter, it was one of those things where I had a 3 nights I needed to shoot a night exterior scene in a small neighborhood in Leawood, Kansas. Well, I went to the city and I'm like, can I get a permit? Because I'm going to be like emulating. I'm going to be having like huge lights emulating lightning flashes in this neighborhood. And they're like, so what are you doing? So I'm making a movie. They're like, okay, so is it a concert? No, I'm making a movie. So it was going to take months to get through the paperwork.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing was going from house to house and just getting like a little signed permission from everybody in that neighborhood that was going to be, within and able to see the lightning. It was going to keep them up all night because literally we were shooting from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. for 3 nights in a row.
Yeah. Some of them like, Patrick, if I could be the head superstar of your picture, yes, absolutely.
Well, yeah, they a lot of them got to be extras, and a lot of them just kind of sat out in the lawn and watched, and they were fascinated. As long as we didn't do anything to upset them, it went pretty smooth. And it was, 3 nights, and the cops came by once, and they were like, "Oh, okay, whatever." I mean, that was a good thing about shooting in Kansas and in small areas because they're just fascinated. They're not burned. They're not. What's the word I'm looking for? They're not burned out by having film productions in the area because they haven't seen that many. So they're interested rather than telling you to pack it up and go home.
Yeah.
So literally,
you didn't have the police officer walking up saying, do you have a permit? No, officer, I don't have a permit. I did some acting in community theater. If you need somebody,
on the ground.
Well, really, I think we had one cop come by, and he just wanted to make sure our cables weren't blocking the road, and that was it. So we were very, very fortunate to be, we were not asked to leave, and all the houses around the area that could see it were cooperating. So it comes down to just not being an asshole.
Yeah,
up to them and saying,
hit the bell, Sean. We got to hit the
way to go, Patrick.
Right. And literally, you just have to be on your best behavior those entire 3 days because at any point, if somebody gets mad, they can get you out of there, kick you out of there, and then you don't have a finished movie, and then you're in trouble, and you have to figure out how you're gonna recreate those shots in a different spot. So, with Enclosure or Arbor Demon, we were way more like, the good news was we had 6 days outside or at different locations that were not in the woods or the tent. We had 6 days in the wood, 6 days in the woods and exteriors. And then when we shot the second week, we were on a soundstage with controllable light, and we were shooting all the tent interiors on a soundstage. So every time they're in a tent, inside the tent, we're on a soundstage, and we're looking out through the screen, and we built a forest around the tent, so that basically it always seemed like they were still in the woods. So the first 6 days, we shot the boat scene and all the woods and the creature effects outside, and then the second week was all the tent interior, which I would say that there were advantages and disadvantages to both. You're outside, you're dealing with the elements, you're dealing with sun, you're dealing with the fact that
humans.
Can I just say, having filmed down south, be really grateful you filmed outside in December, because the bugs the rest of the year are just insane.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we still had a lot of bugs. We actually had not boars. It was wild hogs or something that would trample through the set at night, so we couldn't leave stuff.
Arbor Demon.
That was an interesting thing.
Yeah.
But
we had gators coming right up on us.
Yeah.
So.
It's bad. They were hitting them with cattle prods.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
That's a horror movie unto itself.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
But no, the second week we shot on the soundstage, and of course then the issue becomes we're in a claustrophobic location. So all of a sudden it's changed a little bit. We're inside this tent, trying to figure out new ways of shooting inside of the tent to keep it interesting. Actors are cramped. Jake is 6 feet tall. There were a lot of, so all of a sudden there's probably, it's way easier to control. Like we're like, okay, it's daytime. We're going to make it daytime with the lighting.
Right.
Okay, it's nighttime. So we could control all that, but then it became, just a claustrophobic shoot at that point. So, but overall it went very smooth, and it was just such a quick experience. But then you spend about a year and a half on post production.
Yeah.
And then which is still pretty fast for an indie film. It
Well,
really
Patrick,
is. I know
Patrick,
people have worked on their. What's that?
Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
Oh, so really, we shot December of 2014, and the movie was delivered to its distributor December of 16. So that's exactly 2 years. Premiered in August, so about a year and a half of post production. I mean, that's a pretty steady. That's actually pretty fast for an indie film, I think.
Well, walk me through this, Patrick. You're the director. You're the head man. All the money people are looking at you to produce. You're sitting at home. You film this thing. You got your shots in 12 days. You're sitting at home. You got the computer in front of you. You're doing your edit. What does the weight of the world feel like when you're actually going through this, going, okay, this is where I make or break it? I mean, how many times do you look at each scene to see if you're getting that wanted effect?
I mean, really, it's the trick is combining it with music, because really then and sound design, because like so much of the movie is sound design. So really, it's tough, because I would have to explain to people when we were shooting the movie, especially the bear moment, because we obviously don't have a bear.
Spoiler.
So we're cutting the scene together. We had like a fur, but it wasn't a bear costume or anything like that. And I said, go ahead.
There are groups of people out there called furries. They would have done it for free.
Yeah.
I know.
And female maskers.
Some of them on speed dial.
Yeah.
Well, true story. A little tidbit of we actually had a fur coat that was like a bearskin fur coat, and I had to. My co-writer was visiting that day. She had flown in from Kansas City, and she was on set that day. And I said, "Hey, here's your cameo. You're the bear. Put the coat on and crawl around the outside of the tent." So, and she's very blonde-haired, and so it was like one of those things where we would do a take, and I'd be like, wait, I could see some of her blonde hair sticking out from the bear, so let's do it again.
Goldilocks.
Well, that's the blonde hair from the girl the bear just ate.
Yeah.
So exactly. It was in his teeth.
Is this going to be in the outtakes?
You put a scene together like that, and really, honestly, you just have to, until you see it with sound design and score, you're not 100% sure it's working until that moment, because you just have to trust your gut. Okay.
My wife screamed at that moment, so you did good. You did good.
Good. Well, there you go. That makes me feel very good.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted, man, because that's a lot of pressure on any director. I in that spot.
Yeah, I think that, and you just, again, it came down to storyboarding too, because I had storyboarded the shots, and I said, okay, I knew making this movie, whatever budget range that we were going to have, most likely that we were going to have, I wasn't going to be able to afford a bear. So much of it has to be implied. Like it has to be
right.
Okay, we're going to see a silhouette.
Like with
I can't
Jaws.
afford to have a bear. So in my mind, I had already had it kind of figured out that it was just going to be a shadow and
what Walking Dead?
And that's it.
Walking Dead can afford a tiger, and they can't give you a bear. That's just.
I know. Well, their budgets are probably way higher.
Hey, Kari Payton
but they
came
work
on
the same film schedule. We've had like half the cast on that tell us they filmed like an episode in like 4 days.
Kari Payton came on and said they didn't have a tiger. That was all.
That's right.
That's right.
It was all CGI and a puppet.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I was trying to not use CGI as much as possible with this movie. I was trying to
budget
practical.
Old school, man. Loved it.
Well, and that's the thing with Nailbiter. We did the same thing. We had a puppet built, and we did a bunch of stuff that just tried to keep it practical because obviously there's a tornado in Nailbiter that we had to do CGI. But with Enclosure Arbor Demon, it was. I was like, okay, I got to get this. We got to do this practical. I had it. My makeup artist was a gal named Megan Arford, who has worked on. I think she worked on Abattoir. She was like the key makeup artist on that Abattoir, and she's worked on like a bunch of movies for Darren Lynn Bousman, who coincidentally is from Kansas City, or from I think Olathe, which is a suburb. But she and I worked kind of combined efforts. I had sketched out the creature a couple months in advance, and she and I would go back and forth, and she had started doing her own sketches based off my lousy sketch, and she created a really good, really much more impressive sketch, and then she started building the prosthetics, and and she had somebody in Los Angeles to kind of be the test subject for the makeup, and all that was done in advance because we knew once we got there it was like go, we don't have time to mess around. So I think she just did a fabulous job.
What was your inspiration, Pat, for the monster? Because it's got to be hard, man. They've done so many of them. What was yours?
Well, that was something we really struggled with. Because the early drafts, the creatures were way more like vague and obtuse, and you couldn't really I kept thinking, well, maybe we do something more like the creatures in Attack the Block or something like that. I was trying to figure out. And then it just kind of sprung on me, why don't we try to make them look like they're part of the woods or part of the trees, so that when they kind of wrap around the trees, their skin looks like tree bark and
they're camouflage.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I, other than Predator, which is obviously a sci-fi, action movie where the creature has a device that lets him kind of camouflage, I hadn't really seen anything like that before. So, at least not to this effect. And I was just, we were just busting our brains. Michelle and I were just trying to figure out, okay, how do we make these creatures? Because for a while there, the script didn't have much of a description of them because we couldn't figure out what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then finally, between she and I, we just had enough, coffee and conversations over the phone that we were kind of like, okay, this is what we should try to do. And then I sketched it out, and I enjoy drawing. I mean, I'm not like a great artist, but I enjoy sketching stuff, and I came up with a few ideas and kind of.
I said coffee. After seeing the monster, I'd say some choice herb was thrown in there, man. A little bit.
I don't live in Colorado. I live in Missouri.
That's right.
Well, I do want to say one of the things I was really impressed with was the lack of holes in the story. Because Sean and I obviously work with television a lot. I have a lot of friends who work in movies. Chrissy is a writer. And I have actually friends who will send me their stuff and go, please look at this and see if I have any holes in this story, because my wife likes to joke that I think in screenplays. So I'll look through a script and say, okay, you have a hole here, 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 and here. You got to fix that, or people are going to look at that and go, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And I was very impressed that you didn't have any real holes in that story.
Well, and I'm always like, I invite scrutiny. So like whenever I write a script, I bring like a group of people together to read it at a table read. And I'm like, I'm not there for compliments. I just want them to rip it to shreds, because the movie's not going to get better.
Oh yeah, I'd rather a friend rip me to shreds than have like 20 critics do it. It's
right, exactly. So, and especially in horror, where it's kind of it's a losing battle in some ways because you're going to get. I always tell people this movie is getting really good reviews, but there's always going to be those people out there that wanted something completely different. Like the horror genre, it's not like the romantic comedy genre where the romantic comedies have a specific format and everybody usually is satisfied. Well, with horror, it's like you've got people who want blood and guts, and then you've got people who want
horror
more
fans are tough.
nudity, that kind of thing. So, like I'm always kind of like preparing myself for that as a filmmaker. Whenever I make a movie, like I'm always like, okay, so I made this horror movie for a specific type of viewer. I feel like every horror lover will appreciate it in some capacity.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, the people who enjoy people getting ripped to shreds and that are going to be disappointed. But it's just not that kind of movie.
Right.
I'll probably make a movie like that at some point, but this wasn't the time.
Well, remember us because we're not that much in television anymore, so we're semi-retired, I guess. Always looking for great opportunities.
You can use us for anything you need.
Some great radio host, baby.
We've got the look. Trust me. Everybody wants to see us die.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, I'm gonna keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But it's funny because the next one I'm working on right now is a kind of a new take on the imaginary friend story. Horror movie story, more from the vantage point of the imaginary friend. So the imaginary friend is like an actual character in the story, and you're seeing it more from that character's point of view.
Well, that's cool.
It's very cool.
So it's got a little bit of a Fatal Attraction aspect to it, but it's
the imaginary friend who won't let go. It's
kind of and it's more complicated than that, but it's certainly something I'm excited about. So that's the one I'm kind of planning on doing next, along with kind of at the same time planning a sequel to Nailbiter, just because it's been airing on Chiller so much, and then it's been airing on the Horror Channel in the UK. And it's kind of developed a fan base that I think, I set it up for a sequel. If you ever see Nailbiter, it literally leaves you hanging for a sequel. And what happened was I was like, I'm going to do this smaller movie and just kind of take my mind off of that. And then that movie ended up being Enclosure, which was, a couple years process. So it's like I should probably get to the sequel of Nailbiter.
I think it's important at this time to say all ideas stated on this show by Patrick are intellectual property and cannot be used in any way. Except for me. I'm going to use this one. Let's see here. Imaginary friend. No, I got one more question for Patrick, and that's it, brother. I know we kept you over. Screening night. You just did a big project. I want to know, how nervous are you? I'm sure you've outed that by now, but what do you think in your head when you're sitting there with all the people, huh? Walk me through that.
Well, the thing is that, like, it's interesting because, like, whenever the movie premiered in London and I was nervous, but there's a little bit of, like, relaxation to it because I don't know anybody there. Like, it was a completely anonymous audience. Like, which is also scary because there's nobody. It's not like my mother's there and she's gonna love it no matter what.
Yeah.
There are people there who are gonna give me an honest reaction.
But of course, you don't want to see the guy in the front row, the fat man that's drunk, urinating on the screen while your movie's going. Yeah.
Right. Well, I often go back to the night that I saw The Witch in the theater by myself. And I was in the theater.
The
Witch.
Witch.
I was in the theater. And literally, I was probably the only sober person in the theater. But there was like an audible anger towards that movie. Like everybody in the theater, when it was over, like half the audience booed.
It's intellectual. I liked it.
I love it. I think it's a fantastic movie. But what scared me about it was just like that kind of reaction where you're like, "Oh crap! I hope that doesn't happen to me." You know. So
back to the edit room.
Yeah, right. So no, I was very pleased with the reaction in London. Now, the movie showed in Kansas City for the first time. They did a limited theatrical. They did Kansas City, Portland, Oregon, Columbus, Ohio, and Toronto, which is like the most random cities I could think of. But having everybody I know, like my family and my friends and stuff, attend the screening, that for me was more nerve-wracking. Because I know everybody in the audience. So that for me is very, very nerve-wracking. But that at the point of my Kansas City screening, the movie had already shown, at 4 or 5 festivals, so I was kind of acclimated to the response and felt like I had something that was really good that people were going to respond to or at least appreciate. So I was, I wasn't as nervous as if it had been like the very first screening, showing to my family and friends,
Yeah. Still kind of weird with the sex scenes.
But I'm always nervous. My wife is kind of like, "Why are you so nervous?" I'm like, I'm always nervous.
I always thought, movies with sex scenes and your mother there with you covering her face, just a weird.
Sean, you are not supposed to be showing your mom your home film.
Yes, well,
showing you if I made a movie like 50 Shades Darker or something. And it's like, okay, Mom, here you go.
Yeah, let's check this out, Mom.
I just wanted to ask you 2 quick things before we end. First of all, the introduction of horror films, like not low budget, but like less budget horror films in the late 90s, early 2000s with like the Blair Witch Project that brought horror films to a new level inside the indie film circuit, provided a wider audience for horror films and indie films. But do you think they expected more of them because of that? Like the horror films, I remember indie horror films from like the early 90s, and honestly, they had a budget of like $17 and a box of gum. And it's and now they're like, well, he only had $50,000 to do this film, and do you think more is expected from you as an indie horror director and writer and producer?
I certainly think that there's a lot more you can do with your money now. Really, honestly, what it comes down to is because there's a lot more movies being made because the budgets have gone down and equipment's more readily available. You just have to have a really good story, and I think that really, I think that's where you just got to hold yourself up to that standard of actually writing a script that's intriguing and interesting and keeps people, because you can make beautiful images now with your iPhone. So I think that, definitely I think people expect more out of directors who they've started following and really think they are improving in their skills. I think everybody expects each movie to get better. Like, I want my next movie that I make after this to be even better than this one. And so I think, I do think that right now we're in this kind of interesting time where there's just so many films being made, but there's still a lot.
Does all those films being made make it harder to be in the business?
I think it does, and it doesn't. Like, in some ways, it makes it easier to get a movie made, maybe, but it's harder to stick out. So you really have to focus on story, acting, sound, because I think a lot of these films they start making these movies and they don't realize how important the sound is. So then when I always tell people, I use Paranormal Activity as an example, because Paranormal Activity really was the next Blair Witch, because it was the next found footage movie, and I think there was a lot of found footage movies made after Blair Witch that didn't go anywhere because they were just kind of piggybacking. But Paranormal Activity, the thing that made that movie work was the sound. So I always tell people, you can make an indie film, and make it look really pretty, but you better have a good story that's compelling, and you better have really good sound, because if you don't, you can have the most beautiful image, and if the sound is bad, people check out. Like, they just check out.
Yeah.
So I think that those are the things that indie filmmakers need to focus on. Even less so, I've seen some films, where the image isn't that great, the picture isn't that great, the cinematography isn't that great, but the story is good, and the sound is good, and the performances are believable. And those movies win me over, because I end up getting into them rather than a movie that looks beautiful but doesn't have anything new to say, or is just not really about anything, or at the end of the day just makes you feel kind of empty inside.
All right.
So, I think that what it comes down to now is the expectations are high for indie films, because people want really good stories, and I think that those are the films that will win out, or at least stick around. and because I think the thing about horror is that everything's kind of driven by word of mouth, and sometimes word of mouth it could take years for a movie to kind of build an audience.
Oh yeah,
you know. And
well,
I think ultimately it comes down to what's that?
They call them sleepers. They come out a lot in the horror genre, man.
Yeah, where like years later, all of a sudden there's like a fan base for these movies, and it's because the story worked. It may not have had enough marketing behind it when it came out, so it wasn't initially a hit. But if the story is catchy, if a movie doesn't have a plot, I always say, like, you can make it look as pretty as you want, but it's not going to matter.
Right.
Well, it's Sean and I only have a couple minutes left to our airtime, so I just want to get this last thing in because he and I are going out to Comic-Con this year, and I'm asking a lot of questions that we'll be able to repeat. And these are the tough questions, man. We've talked about how great the film is, so now I've got to ask this. Given the budget you had, the people you had, the time you had, what's the one thing, if you could have gone back and changed something, you would have changed?
That's a toughie. And actually, it's funny because I actually had somebody else ask me that question, and I had a hard time answering it. I think that there's some shots in the film that I would love to have gone back and gotten that I had to skip over, especially in the finale, to make the finale even more kinetic. And really, it just came down to the fact that I had to shoot the whole thing in one day, that whole finale. And there's actually some moments in that scene where
the makeup alone looked like it would take a day, dude.
Right. No, and so the makeup lady was working, and she actually had to do some makeup on Jake as well. So she wasn't just working on just the creatures. There are some shots in the movie that I had really wanted to try doing that were more like, fluid motion and lots of Steadicam and stuff like that. I just didn't have time. And I think that there's a car scene in the film towards the beginning that I wish that I had gotten a few more angles. But again, the sun went down, so there was nothing I could do. So those are the kind of things that you sit back when you watch a movie and you're kind of like,
But honestly, it's stuff only you, having been there from the very beginning to the end, notice.
Right.
So I get that.
It's kind of like doing our show. Right. Afterwards, we're our own worst critics.
We sit there going, "Oh my God, I forgot to ask this."
There comes a point too where you stop watching your film after it's done and it's out. You just don't watch it anymore.
You got to,
because you're afraid that you're going to watch it and all you're going to see are the things that you wish you could go back in time and change. And so it was last year or the year before, they showed Nailbiter at a drive-in in Austin, and we actually drove down for it and actually sat through the whole movie without having a nervous breakdown. And I sat there and watched it for the first time as a movie. And it was like really interesting because I was like, wow, this actually is a movie. It's not just a bunch of shots that I put together in my brain, and I'm looking at every individual camera movement and how the lighting is and stuff. I just watched it as a film.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some things that I would love to have changed in that film too, because that was a smaller budget than even this movie. You just kind of go back and at some point you have to realize you're not going to George Lucas your movie.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Or you have those cringe moments, like when we're listening to our show. Sometimes you have those cringe moments, like, oh my God, what was I thinking?
Right. Well, and here's another thing is that a lot of my older short films, actually some of the ones that your wife has checked out, have been released on these anthologies now. They're coming out. Some of them are in the Red Box, some of them are on Amazon Prime. So they've actually licensed some of my older short films, and I've got a catalog that goes back about 9 years that they've been pulling from. And I go to the Red Box and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I have a short film in this collection that's 9 years old. And I don't think I even know who I was at that point. And here it is, it's sitting in the Red Box, and I'm like, I can't, not gonna rent it. I'm not gonna put it in because I'm terrified I'm gonna watch it and just want to be, I don't know, on a different planet.
No escape now, baby. Hey, but I tell you what.
Yeah, good.
No, what were you gonna say, Patrick?
Oh, I was just saying, it was just one of those things where one of those short films, my wife and I weren't even dating at the time, and she has a cameo in it, and it was just we have a 4-year-old now, so it was this anthology came out last October, and I'm like, it's just such a weird thing the way. But these short films I made that they're done with their festival run, And if somebody wants to put them in an anthology in the Red Box, I mean, heck yeah, why not?
Exactly.
Well, and you know, now you've got Nailbiter. That's what is it? What's the network that's playing that one? Chiller's playing Nailbiter. Arbor Demon is available on Amazon.com. Plus, the DVD is coming out and the Blu-ray.
Yeah,
so
in
it's
April,
in April. So that's going to be coming out, folks that want it on Blu-ray and DVD. And you know, you've got new projects on the line. So I mean, that's all awesome stuff. Do you have a web page our listeners can go and find you on?
I mean, I looked me up on Facebook. I mean, really, I've been using that now as my main page. I have two
web
Facebook
page,
pages.
Patrick. Get a web page.
I know. I need to, but it's just one of those things. It's on my list of things to do. But yeah, I basically make all my festival announcements through my Facebook page. So
even if all you do is buy a $10 a month webpage that people can click on links to find your stuff, buy a webpage.
Well, yes, I will. You're gonna make me do this tomorrow, aren't you?
Yeah, you are. You gotta go out and buy a damn webpage.
Yeah. Well, Patrick,
we have to send our listeners somewhere, Patrick. Until then, you can find Patrick Rea. It's REA, and you can find him on Facebook.
Yeah. And then I also have a writer-director page, too, on Facebook. So there's two pages. You can look me up, writer-director, producer Patrick Rea, and then you can look up just my regular one. Both of them I'm making announcements on. So
awesome. Now, Patrick, we're going to ask you to stay on the line 1 second, brother, while we close out the show and pay the bills. What do you think?
That sounds great.
All right. Nathan, what do you say?
Let's do it, Sean. You know what's only less than a half an hour away.
Yeah, The Walking Dead. Get in front of the TV, guys. Anyway, what a great show. Director Patrick Rea. Check his stuff out. Arbor Demon, Nailbiter, and much, much more. Hey, we better special thanks to all our homes, all our sponsors, Stitcher, Smart Radio, Spreaker, the world's listening. How about you? Check them out, Spreaker.com, Planet Paranormal, Geeky Antics Network, Serious Geeks, Silly Fun, GeekyAntics.net. And, of course, the 10 of Home Healthcare, 10ofHAC.com, and the SWL Project. Give, share, everybody needs. Nathan?
A little love.
Check them out, the SWLproject.org. From the haunted back roads of America, this has been another exclusive Shadow Nation interview. Don't go changing America. You know we won't. Demon Hunter.
Because we love you.
Night, guys.